The rain fell in fine silver threads, soft but relentless, painting the glass of the station window with trembling streaks. Emma stood there, her reflection trembling beside the downpour, her fingers clutching a small brown suitcase that suddenly felt far too heavy for what little it held. The platform outside was almost empty, except for a single man standing by the bench, his head bowed, hands deep in the pockets of his worn jacket. The train was late, and the delay only stretched the ache inside her chest. She had promised herself that today she would not look back, that this time, goodbye would mean something final. But goodbyes rarely go the way we plan. Before we dive deeper into Emma's story, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of love that never truly leaves, make sure to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel for more stories that remind us what really matters. The wind that swept through the station carried the faint echo of old laughter, hers and his, from years ago. She could still see it so clearly, the same platform, the same waiting bench, the same trembling hands clutching train tickets to a life that never quite started. Back then, love was simple and reckless, and promises were made with the confidence of two people who thought forever was just another word for next week. But time changed everything. Reality replaced dreams, and the man she once loved, the man standing a few feet away now, had become a stranger marked by silence and regret. Emma tightened her grip on her daughter's hand. Little Lily, barely 4, was clutching a small teddy bear that had seen better days. Her big blue eyes wandered curiously around the platform, unbothered by the tension that thickened the air between her parents. Emma had spent months preparing herself for this moment, this final chapter. After years of disappointment, long nights waiting for him to come home, and words said in anger that could never be taken back, she decided to leave the city, start over, and give Lily the life she deserved. She told herself that letting go was an act of strength. But standing here, seeing him again, that strength trembled like glass. Daniel had always been the kind of man who carried his pain quietly. Once, his silence had felt like safety, steady, dependable. But over the years, that same silence had turned cold, distant, and heavy. He wasn't cruel, he was just gone. Lost somewhere inside himself after losing his job, his confidence, and eventually his way back to her. They had tried counseling, prayers, promises, but somewhere along the way, they stopped hearing each other. And so, one morning, Emma packed a suitcase, took Lily's hand, and left a note on the kitchen counter. "I'm sorry. I can't do this anymore." Now, weeks later, he had asked to see them off, to say goodbye properly. She agreed, though she didn't know why. Maybe she needed closure. Maybe she wanted him to see what he was losing. Or maybe, deep down, she just couldn't quite close the door on the man who once made her laugh so hard she forgot what sadness felt like. The train whistle echoed in the distance. Emma felt her heart twist. She looked down at Lily, who was playing with the teddy's paw, unaware of the storm that brewed around her. Daniel stepped closer, his voice low and rough. "You don't have to do this." It wasn't a plea, just a quiet observation, almost like he already knew she would go anyway. Emma didn't answer. She had spent too many nights answering. Instead, she unfolded a small letter in her hand, the one he had written when they separated. The words were blurred from the number of times she'd read them, half angry, half longing. "Maybe someday you'll forgive me," it said, "and maybe someday I'll learn how to forgive myself." The announcement for departure broke her trance. Emma bent down, fixing Lily's little coat, her trembling hands pretending to be busy. The air smelled faintly of iron and rain. "Say goodbye to Daddy," she whispered, trying to keep her voice steady. Lily looked up at Daniel, her tiny face uncertain. She didn't fully understand what goodbye meant. Not yet. She wrapped her arms around his leg, pressing her cheek against the coarse denim. Daniel knelt, his voice barely a whisper as he said, "Be good for Mommy, okay? I'll miss you." Emma turned away before her heart could betray her resolve. She walked toward the train doors, suitcase in one hand, Lily's small fingers in the other. But just as they reached the steps, She felt a tug on her coat. "Mommy," Lily whispered, her voice trembling but sure. "He looks so lonely." The words hit Emma like a slow, breaking wave. She froze. The air seemed to still, the rain pausing mid-fall, the whole world waiting for her to breathe again. She turned her head slightly, and through the thin veil of rain, she saw Daniel standing there, completely still, completely lost. He wasn't crying, but his face carried the kind of quiet sadness that no tears could fix. It was the face of a man who had finally realized the depth of what he had lost. Something inside Emma broke open. For years she had carried pain like a shield, convinced that moving on was the only way to survive. But in that single innocent sentence from her daughter, all her walls began to crumble. She saw not the man who had failed her, but the man who had once loved her with everything he had. The man who had painted nurseries, stayed up nights when Lily was sick, worked double shifts just to keep food on the table, even when his pride was bleeding. Maybe he didn't know how to fix what broke between them, but maybe neither did she. The train's doors began to close with a warning chime. Emma's heartbeat thundered. "Mommy, aren't we going?" Lily asked softly. Emma took a deep breath, the kind that hurts because it feels too full of everything you've tried to bury. "Not yet," she whispered. She turned around, pulling Lily gently back. Onto the platform. Daniel looked up in disbelief as she stepped toward him. For a moment, neither spoke. The sound of the departing train faded into the distance, leaving behind an aching silence that carried more than words ever could. Emma finally said, "I don't know if I can forgive everything, and I don't know if I'm ready to stay, but I do know that I'm tired of saying goodbye." Her voice cracked. "And she's right. You do look lonely." Daniel exhaled, a sound between a sob and a laugh. "I have been," he said simply. He reached out a hand, not to pull her close, but just to let it be there, open, waiting. For a long time, Emma just stared at it, unsure. Then slowly she placed her hand in his. It wasn't a promise, it wasn't an answer. It was just a beginning, the first real one they'd had in years. They stood there together, the three of them, as the rain softened into mist. Lily leaned against her father's leg, humming softly, her teddy bear pressed between her hands. For the first time in a long while, Emma didn't feel the urge to run. She just felt quiet, still, present. Over the following weeks, things didn't magically become easy. Healing rarely happens in sudden miracles. They started with small things. Talks over coffee that used to end in arguments now ended in silence, but a softer one. They took walks to the park, just the three of them, letting Lily chatter about her new school. Some days Emma wanted to leave all over again. Some days she caught Daniel staring out the window, lost in the same guilt that had driven them apart. But now, instead of retreating, they stayed. They talked. They tried. One evening, as they sat watching Lily draw on the floor, Daniel said quietly, "I used to think love was about being perfect. But maybe it's just about staying, even when you don't know how to fix it." Emma didn't answer. She just reached over and rested her head on his shoulder. In that moment, she realized something that would stay with her for the rest of her life. Sometimes love isn't about grand gestures or new beginnings. Sometimes it's about finding your way back, one small choice at a time. Months later, they found themselves back at that same train station, not to leave, but to meet Emma's mother coming in from another city. As the train pulled in, Emma caught Daniel watching her with a quiet smile. There was still pain between them, still history. But there was also hope, and for now, that was enough. When Lily spotted her grandmother, she ran ahead, her teddy bear bouncing with every step. Emma and Daniel followed behind, walking side by side, not as a couple who had solved everything, but as two people who had finally remembered how to care. The station no longer felt like a place of endings. It felt like the place where they began again. As they stood there, watching the trains come and go, Emma thought about that day months ago, the suitcase, the rain, the whispered words of a child who saw something her mother had forgotten, the loneliness behind anger, the love behind silence, the humanity behind hurt. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, and share this video so it can reach someone who might need a reminder that love deserves another chance. Sometimes, even after goodbye. Special request, comment below. Sometimes love just needs one more chance.